boys are back again. Fury MMA introducing episode number 8. They're coming thick and fast now, aren't they, Dan?
They sure are. First of all, apologies, guys. We haven't been here for a couple of weeks. Our last podcast was obviously with PK.
Yes, it was.
So, yeah, we apologise, but we have been extremely busy bringing you the top fight card for December 7th, which we'll talk about during the show. Sponsors, I want to thank Ferrari Fight Gear. They'll be providing all the merchandise on the night, as far as the gloves, the shin pads, head guards, MMA gloves, you name it. Any MMA sporting equipment, they'll be providing. And
somebody that's quite dear to our heart is Mr. Daniel Baker, photography. I mean, this is the guy, he produces all of our posters, our leaflets, our flyers. So the new season's beatings poster that you see out there, designed by him, also the top photographer in the game.
Yes. Okay, so we've already done our apologies. Now, just quickly before we bring our guest on, and you can introduce him in a bit, Martin. But I just want to touch on the past weekend, the events that went on obviously in the UK scene. UCMMA, wow, they had some interesting fights on there, but the fights that obviously stood out for me was Alfie Davis fighting Maxim Matters for the lightweight belt.
Big upset on the cards. I mean, I had Alfie to take this fight.
Yeah, that's your opinion. You're entitled to. But Maxim, great wrestler. That showed. I mean, he's the national champion of his country. But it's a fantastic fight. But I'm sure fight of the night, and Alfie will be back. But another one that stood out for me, obviously, was like blast from the past. Stacey Hayes taking on Lisa McCallum for the middleweight women's title. Obviously this fight first happened. I made the match up on
a few years back.
It happened on Fury MMA about a couple of years back in Romford, Essex. There was bad blood there, and then there was still bad blood on Saturday night between them. And unfortunately for Stacey, the result was still the same. Lisa won and she became the champion. But, I'm sure Stacey will be back, and Lisa, she has got a good career ahead of her.
I do follow things on social media, and it seems like they've pacified all of the incidents that's happened. There's been some real kind words between the two after the event. That's how it should go.
Any MMA fighter, you hear the trash talk in the cage. And the one upset, which was a major upset, and that's not even because they didn't even get to fight, was my man Jermaine the Pain Facey, who's facing off Makunga. This fight, we were all looking forward to. And from what I hear, Makunga wasn't able to rehydrate properly after his weigh-in. He had to go to hospital the next day. I've touched on about rehydration and fighters cutting weight in one of my articles in MMA Uncaged. But it's just I hope Makunga's well, and that fight gets put on the show. But that's it. But that one, as the UK domestic scene, that was it. It was a good event, and I enjoyed it. Brilliant. So,
should we get to our guest?
We can get to our guest, and the guest that we are talking about, you introduce him, Ryan.
Right. I believe this is a gentleman we've had on our show previously, but because, his knowledge of this industry is so fantastic, we thought we would bring him in again. So, ladies and gentlemen, introducing Christopher, the Dapper Hoekstra.
How are we doing, Chris?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going well, Chris. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. It's great to be back here with you guys on the podcast.
Oh man, awesome! I am gassed.
It's good. It's good to have you back. Like Martin said, you're very knowledgeable in the MMA game. So we thought, hey, why not? Let's bring you back, and obviously you can give us a bit of a breakdown for the December 7th show of Season's Beatings. But before we get there, Chris, obviously the show's about talking about other MMA shows and the weekend news. UFC. Now, your thoughts on the Bisping fight in Australia. Go ahead. Tell me, what did you think of that?
Wow, that was a fight that was certainly some time in the making. A lot of talk going in there. Certainly a lot of tension.
Yeah.
And it seemed to me, and I'm curious how you guys feel about this angle as well, that perhaps Rockhold was able to keep his cool just a bit more.
Yeah.
Where everything else is equal, that can be the X factor on the evening. And you know what? Luke Rockhold makes the weight really well. Michael Bisping, a technical striker, but Rockhold was able to make him pay. Did you guys guys agree that possibly that maybe the trash talk had a bit to do with all that?
Yeah, you know what? Throughout the whole thing, you know, we all know Bisping. He loves the trash talk, and it brings the media attention to him. So that's obviously the quality that he has got in that sense, and he is a good fighter. But I believe there was obviously genuinely bad blood between them. You know, the whole sparring thing when they were in the gym about, you know, he beat up the champ, etc. But I do agree that, you know, Bisping could have affected him. You know, he let it get to him, and maybe it could have, I don't know, affected his game plan. Where Rockhold stayed so calm throughout the whole process of it, even up until the weigh-ins. You know, he didn't have to prove anything. Whereas all the weight was on Bisping's shoulders for him to go, okay, I really need to finish this, or I need to win this fight, or, you know, it's going to look bad on me.
You know, the thing with trash talk is, I personally think that it's something you're either really good at and it motivates you, or it becomes a pressure and a burden on you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is to take nothing away from Luke Rockhold. I mean, the way he hit that question mark kick, that right high kick, caught Bisping with the tip of his foot, and then switched up to a left high kick and floored him. You know, went after him, looked for the punches from top, and then took that neck one-arm guillotine. You know, Rockhold is a sensational fighter. You have to remember, he went into Strikeforce with two fights. And, you know, Michael Bisping, the guy who's made much of his career in the UFC, I think he went on to the Ultimate Fighter with 10 fights. But Rockhold is a guy who's been fighting at a very high level for a long time, too. And he was able to show that in UFC Fight Night 55. So. Yeah,
and, you know, that was good. Obviously, being the British guy over there, and we like to support the UK fans and the UK fighters. One of the other fight nights that was happening on the night was obviously the Brazil card. You know, the main event was meant to be Jimmy Manuel versus Shogun. Obviously, Jimmy had to pull out due to injury. But what was your thoughts on the Shogun fight? I mean, did you expect it to finish like that?
Yeah, that was insane. I mean, Mauricio Shogun, what is there, you know, that can be said? We're talking about a guy who really, for many people, was one of the most exciting fighters for the longest time in Pride. His brother Rolo, other guys from the Shoot to Box Academy, really just put an aggressive stand-up on the mat. But the way that I don't want to say that maybe OFE was baiting him, but the way that he went in, you know, he chucked a single kick, I believe it was a single right round kick, and those are lethal from Shogun, you know, but OSP was staying there, backed off, clipped him, and then made him pay. It happened so fast, and when you get a guy like OSP, who is a very high-level athlete, Open St. Preux obviously was an American football player for quite some time, you do not want a guy like that punching you, because he will make you pay, and that's what he did. I
mean, do you think for Shogun it was the, you know, the change of opponent? Do you think that affected him, or not really? I don't think so, because at the end of the day, Jimmy is a stand-up guy as well, and I think most people would have expected it to be a stand-up fight, or, you know, toe-to-toe war. So I don't think any of that would have affected Shogun. But do you think change of opponent could have affected him, or not really?
It's possible. I mean, only him and his camp know what the game plan was. You have to remember, Shogun's got, you know, a nasty ground game. Maybe he was going to look to clinch and, I don't know, drop to a leg lock. He's done crazier things before. But the thing about OSP is his athletic burst power.
Yes.
The way that guy just gets a hold of stuff. I mean, you might remember he had some really funky Kimura. I forget what he called it, but he is so incredibly powerful that it only really takes one. And he clipped Shogun. Shogun went for a 1-2, blitzing him, and
that was it.
It only takes one. Anything can happen in the octagon.
Obviously, we know Jimmy, and he's a supporter of the Fury MMA show, and he's got a couple of guys fighting on the show. But I would like to see him still fight Shogun, because that was, you know, that was a long time waiting for that fight to happen. And, you know, when the news came a couple of months ago that he would be fighting in Brazil, he was excited, we was excited. So hopefully, you know, as much as some people are speculating about Shogun maybe should retire now, you know, I would like to still see that fight against Jimmy and Shogun. I would like to see that fight happen.
No doubt. And I mean, you can't take anything away from Shogun. We're talking about a champ here, you know, and we're talking about a guy who we only saw, 30 seconds of?
Yes.
In that fight. So it's tough to weigh judgments. And like you said, Jimmy Mano is an incredible fighter. I think would match up very well stylistically with Shogun. And I think it'd be an absolute war.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on, Chris. Obviously, we know you're working on December 7th show. You'll be commentating with the very own Garth Harriman again. So you're what we call the guru of the fight game. And I know you've had a chance to look at the fight card. What fights? The top. I would say maybe with the top 6 fights. What are the 6 fights that stand out for you at the moment that you're looking forward to personally?
Man, I tell you what, I'm sitting here right now, and my gas is thinking, "'Tis the season to be jolly, my friend." You are not going to want to miss this show.
Absolutely
we're
not.
A month out, and I'm always looking at the fight cards of shows I'm new working on as they change. I like to kind of keep myself in a loop. And you know what? You'll always hear it from the promoters, but this might be our most stacked card yet, don't you think, man?
Well, I have worked hard on it.
I think it could be still get more stacked.
Yeah, not stacked as in the terms of number of fights. Just we like I said, we had a couple of changes, couple of interesting step ups and match makes that I've managed to pull out the last couple of days. But yeah, what fights are you looking forward to, Chris? I mean,
yeah, no doubt, man, and I've you bet. One that really stuck out to me from the last show was Shahid Ajban's performance. I tell you what, this young man, 18 years old, comes in to MMA where the consequences can be dire if you're a jiu-jitsu fighter. I mean, it can be so dangerous when you do things like pulling guard, for example. And he went in there and hit that triangle in the first round. I think he fought a month later in October somewhere in flying guillotine. He jumped guarding on someone else.
It was actually, can I correct you, it was actually a week later. The dude fought a week later, Chris.
He fought a week later?
A week later, wow. Yes.
Sorry, how old is Sohaib?
Sohaib's 18, I believe. And he is, I believe. But, he looks 16, but he's fighting another young kid, Festus. 16 years old, and
I believe Festus has now turned 17. I mean, Festus is like ranked number 3 in the UK in judo as it stands. He's also, he's upped his training big time. I mean, he's training with like Yusuf Beza and also now Alex Montagani, who's in the UK top 20 rankings of middleweight fighters. So, he is, coming from a decent camp. These are 2 young fighters that I'm not sure which way this is going to go.
I wouldn't want to be a commentator.
Hey, I can't wait. I'll have a front row seat, man. Here's the thing, though. I was going to say, with Shahai returning to the show in December, it's all about the return of Festus as well, which is what I'm getting to. And we've seen, I have to go back to Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. I have to go back to when I judged his original bout with Lonnie Kazana before I was commentating for you guys.
Yeah.
And I could not believe the way this young man was catching overhooks and just throwing Lonnie all over. It was incredible. I mean, this kid is a nasty clinch game, as I'm sure you guys will agree. And the scary thing is he's learning how to box, too.
Yes.
I mean, this is, like I said, this is going to be... It's going to be a fast-paced fight. Wouldn't want to close my eyes. It's going to be, if I don't know who's refereeing it on the night, but whoever the referee is needs to be on their toes.
See, the thing is, I've taken a look at Festus recently, and the one thing that I will tell you about Festus is another one of his coaches, Eunice Gal, was on the K1 circuit in Italy. Yeah. And he was a top fighter. He's a little bit of a unknown, but Festus is in very good hands and he is ready for this bout. Sohaib, it is, I know MMA clinic, same as this is going to be something special.
Well, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Shahid is, if he pulls guard, he's going to have someone who's got a really good top game on top. Festus is judoka. They've always got good top games. I think Shahid's got an underrated kicking game as well. Maybe he's going to want to stay out of Festus's reach, avoid the clinch, maybe shoot some kicks. It's going to be incredible because it's the perfect style matchup, and again, a return of 2 incredible young fighters to the show.
Yeah, and talking about Martin mentioned Saab being from the MMA clinic. Also, another MMA clinic fight that's on there is Carlos Kaminskas and fighting Liam Merry from Premier Mixed Martial Arts. You know, again, these are top gyms, top fighters who've been on other shows as well, and you know, now fighting on the show in December 7th. What can you tell us about this fight?
Yeah, I can't wait for that one either. Both fighters are very aggressive. I mean, if you watch Kaminsky's last fight on the last show, check it out on YouTube, Fury channel, you will find that he actually baited his opponent in, who I think overextended on a teep kick, and clipped him, dropped him, got on top, stuck to him like glue. Clearly from the MMA clinic, he's going to have a good ground game, as you're saying, just like with Shahad.
Yeah.
And then forced a turtle and choked his opponent out in the first round. That being said, we've got Premier MMA in the house this time. And I've watched Liam's last fight, Again, very aggressive, uses stand-up game very well. Needs to watch out, obviously, for the offense of Carlos Kaminskas, but I know that Premier Gym's got a pretty cool stand-up system. I believe it's STX kickboxing?
Yes.
KTX.
KTX,
Korean Thai cross. It is similar to STX. That's Eric Paulson's system, which crosses Savat with Thai. You've seen a lot of that in MMA gyms these days, where they do a cross-training version of stand-up, you know, mixing up the kicking styles to suit MMA. And so, again, it's going to be a fast-paced, ultra-aggressive fight. I would not predict that goes the distance.
I mean, talking about the boys from Premier, Rick Salvaraja, main event versus Marius Bogdan.
For the
strap. It's for the lightweight strap. What do you think? What's your predictions on this one? How do you see this going?
Man, that is gonna be a war. I still cannot wait, because you've got Marius coming in, high level wrestler. Obviously comes from Romania, good country with some tradition there. I believe he's actually been to the USA recently.
He is still out there. I believe he is still out there. I know he's trained at the Extreme Couture Gym. I know he's out there. He's been training, and obviously, you know, his coach when he comes back with Horia and the Ministry of Martial Arts guys. You know, I'm sure they'll get him ready. And well, he says he is ready. We have actually got Marius on the podcast next week from the States before he flies back home. But yeah, carry on. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, don't miss that. A real wonderful character as well. I'm hoping to train with him when he comes back. We actually spoke a few weeks ago. I thought he was coming back sooner, but it looks like it'll have to be after the fight. That being said, Marius is not just a wrestler. He has KO power, both on the top game, on the ground, and of course standing. He has true one-punch knockout power and has produced some sensational finishes with his hands. So, again, he'll probably be able to defend the takedown or go for the takedown if he so choose, and of course use his hand. That being said, Mr. Salvaraja, I've got a story about Rick, and I'm curious if you've seen any of this when you were at I know
Premier.
You were on a recent visit.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
We was down at Premier to shoot Rick's promo for Seasons Beatings. So yeah, I've seen a bit, and I do know a little bit actually. I mean, I know
enlighten the fans who are listening to this. Tell us the story.
I know one thing that I do know is that he has been training with Capcom Corey Tate as well. So to add to that, he's actually also beaten the current UCMMA lightweight champion, which Maxim Mattis, who beat Alfie Davis this weekend. So, you know, Rick, he isn't a mug at all whatsoever. And, you know, this has got, you know, FOTN all written all over it, man.
For sure, because you know Marius is going to come into this bout motivated. Obviously, he's got a lot of history with the Fury promotion. But back to Rick. I saw him actually at a K1, amateur K1 tournament, and he fought a former teammate of mine. And, you know, Rick will come out there, he's kind of unassuming, doesn't, you know, he's certainly very intense and focused, but, you know, isn't showboating or anything like that. His ability to time leg kicks is scary. I mean, he literally took my teammate almost entirely off his feet. He was looking pretty hard for the jab, put too much weight in that lead leg. I tell you what, Rick caught him so hard. I mean, it was just scary. Not only does Rick have a nasty standing game, he's also pretty submission savvy on the ground as well. Good, tight jiu-jitsu, knows how to finish a lot of submissions from a lot of positions. So he's dangerous everywhere. But down to Marius to try to dictate where this fight takes place using his wrestling. I mean, again, look at the UFC. Majority of champions in UFC have a wrestling background because they use it to dictate where that fight takes place. So I'm not sure whether that's going to be a factor or not, but wicked dangerous everywhere, on the ground and standing. Should be a cracking fight.
Well, we've got another title fight here, which is Ty Palmer versus Tommy Titanium Gunn. Have you seen the Tommy Gunn promo?
I have. That was really cool, man. That was really neat. He's a real character, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, what have you got? What's your thoughts on this fight? Let's break it down for us, Chris.
For sure. Tommy Gunn, obviously very physically gifted, very well conditioned, impressive power on both in his hands and in the feet. Having checked out some of his footage. Also, I believe a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe he trains down at he was training down at Terror Squad, but now at the moment I know he's training with Vladimir Neto
and Steve Semtex.
Yeah, so
that's from the Checkmat team. Again, a real good, strong lineage there. If you're a blue belt under that guy, there's levels, man. You know what I mean? There's levels. There's blue belts and there's real blue belts.
But talking about BJJ though, I mean, Ty Palmer's ground game. He trains out at Combat Sports Academy. Under Lee Johnson, and their guys are legit as well.
Obviously our heavyweight champion Damon Lane. Cage Warriors is Carl Kinslow.
So, exactly. So he comes from a good camp as well. So obviously you've seen Ty fight.
Yeah, this is where I was getting at though. The thing about Ty Palmer is he is, without a doubt, probably got the better grappling pedigree. Finishes his fights mainly by submission, had some good pro experience, but wow, finishing by submission. He's got a lankier frame as well. That could be a factor in locking up, triangle, holding on to the back. Tommy and Ty definitely are going to make the weight in slightly different ways. So, again, it could become a factor, particularly when you look at all the different angles and space used in grappling. So, Ty Palmer is going to be a factor, I believe, in Fury. He's going to look to show up.
We've also got a pro debut for two fighters here, actually. Very interesting.
Well, just before we carry on, originally it was meant to be Alex Lahore versus Kofi Black.
Yeah.
Now, breaking news come out today. Obviously, Kofi wasn't able to continue, and I know you must I haven't dropped this one on you yet, Chris, but I'm going to do so right now before we carry on. Kofi has got a shoulder injury. He's had his scan. The doctor's recommending him not to fight, so he'll be out for at least 4 to 6 months, but I'm sure he will be back. But in his replacement, we have got Jake Rack from Richmond Combat Company. Now, this is another young kid, coming out of that camp. Now, I know you know little about Jake, but obviously Alex as well. So I just wanted to announce that has been confirmed now, and that fight is going ahead. Both of them making them their pro debuts.
Hey, the gentleman making it happen here live on air. Bringing the fans what they desire. I tell you what, I remember Alex's fight, I believe back in June 2013 at the studio in Fury.
I believe that was Martin Van Wyck. Is that, I believe that's who you're talking about?
I remember he came in and actually won by a rear naked choke. He locked that choke up.
It was against Jay Tovey. Jay Tovey.
Yeah.
That's who it was, yeah. And he locked that choke up in the very first round from a really interesting angle as well. Like kind of not entirely on the back, but the guy's got a seriously tight ground game. And a pretty aggressive standing game. So he's going to look to bring the fight wherever he can against Jake. And again, two guys making their pro debut, they're going to come in there, Dan, and they're going to try to make a statement, which I believe, when you sit down at a Fury event, okay, you come in, and already, just like this past show in September, 2 or 3 fights in, you will see that these guys are laying it all out there on the line.
And that's what it's all about, and that's what we want to bring the fans. Now, moving on to the last fight I want you to mention, because we are struck for time. Talking about laying it all on the line, I get a phone call last week. Hey Dan, I want to fight on the show. I don't care who it is. I want to defend my title. I'm ready. I'm going pro next year, so I want to fight the top, semi-pro guy out there. And we are talking about who, Martin?
Charlie Boy Howard.
Wow. Chris, he's called me up and I've gone, you know what? If he's begging me to fight and he wants to fight, and we spoke to his team, and I've managed to find. It's hard to find this kid a fight. He's 10-0.
No.
Sorry.
This could be the 10.
He's 9-0, and there's been a couple of guys I've approached. Look, I've got this guy here. He's our champ. Blah blah. He's 9-0. Oh no, I'm not sure. But the one guy who has stepped up without any hesitation from Exile MMA is Dominic Dillon. Now,
acid test.
This is a big test for Charlie, and this is what we're all about at Fury, We're all about testing our fighters, putting the great fights on, win or lose, whoever it may be. We know that they've been in a war, and, it's been a great fight. Now, I don't know if you've had the chance to, or do you know much about Dominic Dillon?
I do.
Yeah?
I do, yeah, for sure. He's been on a lot of big shows, UCMMA, among others.
Yeah.
Dominic Dillon, I believe from Norwich, is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, he is incredibly capable fighter in not only getting the fight to the mat, but securing good positions. I watched some footage from a few fights, and he's got a really good passing game.
Yeah.
Okay, he's also got a very good half guard game, which when you hit the mat is oftentimes one of the most key positions. A fighter with a good guard like Charlie is going to be able to catch the shrimp, or hip escape, possibly retain half guard often. So if you've got a good half guard game, guys like Randy Couture made a career out of it.
Yes.
They can do a lot of damage from half guard. And Dillon has been capable in winning fights in that position. He's also got good submission defense as well, which, as we know, when we're talking about Charlie Boy Howard, must be a prerequisite. If you haven't checked out his last fight on YouTube, once again, I've got to plug it here, MMA channel. It was insanity. Yep. Charlie Howard has a nasty guard. I've said it before. He is very dangerous off his bat. He's also got good varied stand-ups. Nice spinning kicks. A pretty full arsenal there. I'd like to see him use that a bit more in this fight, perhaps, and avoid Dillon takedown.
But Chris,
that being said, Charlie Boy knows how to win no matter where he's at. He's got that X factor.
He has, and you know what? Every fight he's asked. Obviously he fought Harry Bentley on the O2 show. Sorry, the O2 show that we had. Yeah. Then obviously we had Reiko for the #1 contender who'd stepped up and fought for the belt. And you know what? Reiko tested him, man. Charlie's chin got tested there, and some ground and pound shots as well. But again, every time he's phoned me up, Dan, give me a better challenge. Dan, I want to test myself. So, him wanting to go pro, and this is what I respect about him. He's not jumping the gun. He wants the best out there, and I believe in 2 more, win or lose, in a couple of more fights, he'll be looking to turn pro, and I reckon he'll be dominating the pro scene as well.
If I'm going to speak on my behalf personally, I think there is an X factor about Charlie Boy, and he could have potential to be special. He hasn't, he's still actually a kid.
Yeah.
He hasn't, got his man strength yet.
Yes, exactly. That's scary.
That is absolutely scary.
But you know what? Again, before we go,
happy birthday, Charlie Boy! By the way,
birthday, belated birthday. But you know what, Dominic Dillon, I've had the pleasure of refereeing him on the show that he fought up in Norwich, and like you said, the guy, he just keeps coming at you. So for me, this is going to be the biggest test for Charlie, and it's a fight not to miss. So yeah,
what I'm glad about is that a lot of the fans they have gravitated towards Charlie, and they've actually asked for him to come back. So for him to actually say, "I want to come back. I'm ready. Dan, get me an opponent." Credit to this kid, and you know what? Credit to Dominic as well. He stepped up. He stepped up to the challenge. Barn burner.
That's it.
The thing about Charlie is, he only needs a couple of seconds to do his dirty work, and it was sensational. It was one of the most spectacular armbars I've ever seen. If you look at his last fight, because he was tested. He tested. Reiko really took it to him. He took that fight on short notice too, as we said before. So I think this is going to be, once again, an incredible ground bout, or it could end up entirely standing. That's 2 good ground guys will end up standing. So who knows?
So let's wait and see. So Chris, on that note, buddy, really appreciate you coming on the show tonight. Obviously being, what I like to call the guru of MMA, giving us the insight of the fight card. But just to let the fans know, Chris will be back not only at the show, but he'll be back on our podcast show before the fight night.
We still. Fans, this isn't it. I mean, this is like a fraction of the fight card. We've got a lot more to come. And Chris, we'd love to have you back on the show to discuss, some few more fights.
Definitely. No, I can't wait. Always a pleasure to hang out with you guys. Hey, listen, since I'm the guru of MMA, I've got a question for you, and I'm not entirely sure about. Yeah.
Go on.
This weekend, UFC 180 in Mexico. Okay.
Yeah.
Cain Velasquez was hurt, got hurt again. Okay.
Yep.
He's out now. It's interim championship bout. Fabricio Verdum versus now Mark Hunt. What do you guys think might happen?
Listen, Mark Hunt has been one of my favourite fighters from the Pride days. From the. I mean, I don't know if Martin remembers this. I'm sure you do, Chris. When he done the power bomb in the ring.
God.
Yes.
The guy, he just, win or lose, he is there to throw down. And personally, I think he just bites down on his gumshoe and he just comes at you. And I can see it being, tested. But then Verdum, he's who used to be, he beat Fedor, the toughest, most feared heavyweight fighter. So I don't know. It's a 50-50 for me, and I honestly can't say. I actually don't want to see any of them to lose.
Can I just speak about Fedor for a second? Because I actually spoke about him the other day. And do you think that maybe he was, that champ that was in that said promotion that wasn't prepared to take that move at the correct time? I think this could be a discussion. Particular fighters on another show.
This could be a discussion on another show as we were running short on time. Yeah. But Chris, I'll let you answer your own question. What do you think of that fight? Or Verdum versus Mark Hunt?
Well, first I'm going to have to interject and say Emelianenko is probably one of my favorite fighters of all time. But we'll get to that next. Yeah. I've actually got his handbook right here. I've got his entire MMA. Next time, all right? I got a leg lock coming for you next time.
Nice, man. Nice.
No, about 180. Here's the thing. Verdum is taking this camp seriously. I mean, he showed up, I think, 8 or 9 weeks early in Mexico City, which is, I believe, 1.5 miles above sea level. On altitude, acclimatization, big camp, lots of money. I think he had Cordero, Rafael Cordero, a bunch of guys flown in. He was a former shootbox coach. And Verdum has been getting a lot more dangerous on his feet. I mean, he's dispatching guys on his feet. I mean, look what happened in his last bout.
Yeah.
That being said, Mark Hunt is always dangerous. Always.
Oh.
I mean, Roy Nelson.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, the other thing about Hunt is he's getting better at getting up off his back. So I'm very curious to see how long Verdum chooses to stand. I think Verdum's going to try and kick him a lot. But when you're standing with Mark Hunt, it's dangerous territory. So
exactly.
Anything can happen in the octagon.
Anything can happen. Chris, it's been a pleasure again.
Absolute pleasure.
And for now, adios, buddy, and we'll be in touch.
Hey, in the immortal words of Steven Durant, I'll see you guys at Fury. Be there.
Or be Octagon.
Be Octagons, man.
Appreciate that, Chris. Have a good evening.
All right. Have a good evening, guys.
Take care, buddy.
Bye.
Wow. Now you can see why he's called the guru.
Man, Chris Hoekstra. I mean,
Hold on.
Wait. KTX, FTX. I mean, my whole thing was WTF. I mean, wow, this guy is absolutely incredible.
What we'll do is we'll have the Chris Hoekstra podcast show.
Oh yeah.
This guy, he soon. We like I said, we've got big plans for 2015, and you'll be seeing a lot more of Chris. But we can't give too much away, guys. Like you said, as you heard, December 7th, Seasons Beatings, Studio 338. Get your tickets now.
Show.
Through Eventbrite. Go onto our website. Go onto our Fury page, Instagram, Twitter. You know, the whole
tickets
social
already
media.
flying off flying out already, man. They're going fast.
They are going fast. If you know any of the fighters that we've spoken about, they've got tickets too. Holler at them and watch out for the promos coming out, guys. You know, like I said, watch out for the promos.
We've had a few so far, and we've got a lot more to come.
Okay. And on that note, for myself, Daniel, the gentleman Moverheady, and Martin, the Monster Island. I don't need to give you the email addresses, or I don't need to give them to you. You've been hollering at us through the Twitter page, so that's good. Keep on coming through the Twitter and the Facebook. And you know, Martin doesn't have to say his address. It doesn't really matter.
What you're gonna see? I'm gonna do it soon, real soon.
Again, guys. Peace out. Have a good evening.
Take care.
Take care.
Peace.